China has banned the export of some materials essential to the manufacturing of electronics and some military equipment to the U.S. It comes in response to Washington's chip sanctions on Beijing. CBS News Money Watch correspondent Kelly O'Grady joins me now to help explain all of this to our audience. So, Kelly, I guess the question for a lot of people is, how reliant is the United States on these materials?
Very. Okay. So, I mean, you mentioned it. This is a key input in your phones, in defense technology. And I was looking this up. So gallium and germanium, these are two of the materials that China has said we are not going to sell these to the United States anymore. We get over 50% of what we use from China. Now, we do have some of that in our earth, in the territory here in the United States, but we don't necessarily have the infrastructure to tap into that yet. So we're very reliant on it, and we're very reliant on China for this. This is kind of the tit-for-tat trade war we're seeing escalate.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I mean, we often use terms here in this country, and perhaps they do as well in China, that paint the Chinese as our adversaries. Not straight up enemies, but adversaries. And yet, when it comes to the global trade and global economy, we're more tied in together than perhaps it may sound like when politicians pontificate at a podium.
It's a really great point you make. And I think you have seen a lot of countries, not just the U.S., but China, some of these other nations move away from that global perspective and more towards what we like to call a protectionist mindset. Now, President-elect Trump refers to that as America first, make America great again, protecting domestic industries. And we're not alone in this, right? I mean, China is doing that same thing of, if you're not going to give us this, we're not going to give you that. And ultimately, yes, your domestic industries get more protected, but on the global scale, it's not always a win-win.
Yeah, I thought it was also interesting that, as you know, the president-elect has been making comments about imposing tariffs on China, and he frames it as this is a way for America to win. I thought it was interesting that the Chinese said this is a no-win situation for both the United States and for the Chinese.
Well, because China wants to sell their products to Americans, right? I mean, that's how a lot of these Chinese companies make a lot of money. And the United States also wants to have cheaply produced goods that then companies can sell to their consumers like you and me. And so, yes, President-elect Trump is saying, well, this is going to bring American jobs here. It's going to protect domestic industries. It's going to make any supply chain crisis a lot better for us if we're able to make more things in the United States. But it could also mean that higher prices you see when you go to Walmart or wherever, because so many of the goods that we buy right now are made in China, in Canada, in Mexico, in India, you name it.
All right, so you worked, you worked on Wall Street. You have a background in business. I'm curious, what would come first? Would it be the benefits that the president-elect is saying would happen here, which in other words, hiring would go up? Or would it be we'd feel the pinch at the supermarkets when we buy anything? That would probably hurt us before we see the benefits of companies hiring more Americans. What do you say?
So if they are implemented, I do think you're going to see the prices go up before you see the jobs, because in order to have jobs come here, you need to have capacity in your manufacturing. All of those things take time. I don't want, though, to concern anyone. Don't go out and buy things that you can't afford right now, because you're not going to see the prices increase immediately. It would take some time to move through for you to see it as a consumer. That's if it's implemented, though, because, Vlad, we've talked about this before. This could be a negotiating tactic. The Canadian Prime Minister, the Mexican president have already come to the table and said, hey, let's talk things out. So the hope, I think, right now is that we would never see these tariffs go into effect. China, though, is a different story. I mean, we're already seeing that tit for tat.
Yeah, it's also interesting. The president, president-elect, when he was president before Biden, there's so often, you know this, Kelly, he would tweet about how great the stock market is doing. But if these tariffs go into effect, or even if there's a whiff of these tariffs going into effect and the stock market starts to go down and corporate profitability goes down, we're in trouble.
Yes. And look, the stock market doesn't always mean the economy, right? I mean, we're hitting record highs, yet I know the folks at home, including myself, are going, wait, my dollar's not going as far. But in a situation like that, yes, you would see the stock market react negatively, because it would eat into the profits like a Walmart unless they pass that on to us.
That's right. All right. Kelly O'Grady, always great to have you here in Studio 55. Thank you very much.